Hey everyone, Pastor George here with our Wednesday Bible study, and today we looked at Judges chapter 4. So if you want to dive in with me, let's do it. So we start off today with a sign of the changing of the times, right? The cycle repeats. We talked a lot about the cycles in Judges last week because you see it happen twice. Well, we're going to see the beginning of the cycle this week and the end of it next week with Judges 5. But we have that key word, right? That key phrase to show that we are entering a new cycle. And so here we have the people of Israel did again what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. So Ehud, the last judge, is dead, and now it's a new time. And when they do this, right, when they flee back to these idols, God sends Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. So he's kind of like beyond. He comes in and he's able. Well, Hazor is actually kind of important. It's a city that's destroyed by Joshua, but the Canaanites had clearly resettled it by this point, which is not something that should have been able to happen if people had followed what God had said, but they didn't. And so, this is now quite a while from the time of Joshua, right? This is going to be, by the end of this, a long time, 20 years. Israel is oppressed for 20 years. And that's because God is bringing justice on them for doing evil things, right? And he uses this king to do it. But like many other times, God doesn't leave it that way. So after about 20 years, he appoints a new judge, and the only judge who is a woman, Deborah. And Deborah is a prophetess as well. So this is actually kind of an interesting thing, is that there's still, like, in Israelite society, there are still generally gender roles, right? Men are the ones who go out and fight and lead generally, and women tend not to do that. And in this story, a lot of scholars have pointed out that this is Deborah kind of does this in order to shame the men, because as you can see throughout this passage, a lot of the men of Israel lack faith and they don't step into their natural kind of roles in this area. And so she's lifted up by God to judge Israel at the time. And it seems that, like, in her role, both as a judge and a prophetess, she actually does hand out legal judgments. She does that under this palm tree, right? It talks about that in this passage. Anyway, she knows that it's time to fight, and so she summons this guy to come to her, and that is Barak. Now, Barak is an interesting character because Barak serves as a guy who is one of these people who should be able to do what he's commanded to do, but he doesn't. She actually talks about how, hey, weren't you supposed to go to Mount Tabor and bring all these guys and go fight? And basically Barak says, I can't, I'm too scared. He doesn't say that literally, right? But he says, if you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. So, you see this kind of, this is his job as a military leader to do this, but instead he needs Deborah there, which is usually not typically her role. And so this is kind of a shameful thing that he has to do this, right? And because of this, she says, you know what, I'll go with you, but because of this, you are not going to be able to get the benefit of the glory that's going to come with this. That's going to go to a woman. Again, kind of a shameful thing. And you might be thinking that it's Deborah who's going to get it, but it isn't if you read the whole passage. And so they go, and he summons these two tribes that kind of live near the area, and they go and they fight and they win. You'll kind of find out more about how they win next week, because we're going to get a poetic account of the battle and of this whole thing in a song form, which is what we'll look at in chapter 5. But anyway, they defeat this guy, right? They defeat Sisera, who's kind of the leader of the Canaanites. And so what happens is they flee. This guy, Sisera, flees, and he flees into the land that was actually settled by the descendants of Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, and Moses' wife, the Kenites. And the Kenites aren't Israelites. So again, you have this kind of like, you have this kind of shameful thing shown to be on Israel's part, that they have to rely on people who are not part of their tribe to actually do what the Lord has told them to do. This guy, Sisera, flees into the desert, and he finds Jael, and Heber, who are this couple. Jael is the woman and Heber is the husband. And he goes and he asks, okay, can I stay here? Um, and they say, sure, you can stay with us. And then when he's there, uh, the wife Jael kills him by driving a pentag into his head. Um, and he dies, right? And while he's sleeping, so she's able to kill him in an underhanded way while he's sleeping. And you again have, it's a woman that does this, right? This is the fulfillment of the prophecy that Deborah spoke. And so Sisera is defeated, the Canaanites are driven out, and the people of Israel are able to eventually destroy Jabin, the king of Canaan. So they're able to kind of take back the land that was theirs. And that's the narrative that happens. But as you can see here, the big kind of push on the point of like this story is this idea that the Israelites are not living up to what they're called to do, right? Barak is told to fight. He won't go unless Deborah goes, right? They're told to defeat them at the beginning, and they can't, so the Canaanites come in and take it. They turn away to idols. They're unfaithful. And then ultimately, what ends up being able to save them is a person who's not Israelite by ethnicity, but is their ally and probably worships the Lord, given by her name. And she then kills this guy, right? She's able to do what the people of Israel can't. So it's kind of this shameful thing. And remember, we talked about how, this is a victory for the Israelites. Deborah is considered a good judge, right? But it's this idea that, like, you can see the quality of the people and of the nation declining over time. And so that's what we talked about this morning. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about this story and kind of get a deeper look into the historical perspective next week when we listen, when we read the Song of Deborah and Barak. But until then, you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you tomorrow for a new thing. Peace out.